Okay, so just getting right back to it with The Terror Within 2. Released in 1991, it is obviously a direct sequel to The Terror Within from 1989 and picks up more or less where the last one left off, with our hero David roaming the post-apocalyptic landscape along with his dog Butch, although his female companion from the end of the previous film is gone. Really no explanation given for that at all, but I'm assuming that the gargoyles got her. Or maybe once they got out of that bunker, she realized that even in a post-apocalyptic demographic, she can probably do better for herself than this douche. But before I go just kind of bashing Andrew Stevens out of the blue, just let me explain quickly that he did also write and direct this film. And it's worth keeping that in mind when you're watching it, because it makes the first half of this movie a lot easier to understand, even if it doesn't make it any less obnoxious or vain or indulgent. Like, you talk about vanity projects. This is a vanity project through and through, my friends, because for at least the first, like, almost 40 minutes of this 80-minute movie, he writes and directs it so that his character, David, the lead, the hero, ostensibly, this character spends like the first half of this movie being adjacent to everything that's going on in a bunker with the gargoyles in this one. And he's just lying around, hanging out with a blonde girl who he just happened to pick up along the way. And it's literally nothing but him just walking around in the desert with her. He chops off his fake beard so quickly for her, it's kind of hilarious, by the way. A couple quick snips, that ridiculously cheap, like, Spirit Halloween beard falls off like it's a leaf, and he's already got a perfectly etched 2-day stubble in place, and he's just about ready to go film a commercial for cologne or shaving cream or something. So many friggin' shots of this guy just glistening in the sunlight. Like, the baby oil is strong with this one, let me tell you. So many sequences where he's just walking around in the sun with this girl and laying around and peeling her clothes off under nice shady trees or a roaring fire or a babbling brook. Meanwhile, the only other pack of survivors that he's encountered in like forever are getting eaten alive, and he's just off on a booty call. I'm sure Andrew Stevens thought that he was pulling a Stallone or an Eastwood when he pulled this stunt. It only succeeds in making both the actor and his character look like a vain, cherry-picking opportunist. I got more than my share of derisive laughs at what an ignorant douchebag this guy is, but I don't think that's quite how Andrew Stevens envisioned it when he was helming this. Arlie Ermey is cast in a very well-suited supporting role, but the problem is that his performance, like a lot of the cast here, is very inconsistent. There's times where he's really on his game. There's other scenes where it looks like he's one take away from storming off and pouring himself a whiskey sour back in his trailer. I have no idea what his mindset was when he was making this whatsoever, but just based on what's on screen, I kind of get the impression he wasn't having the best time. Speaking of not having the best time, it turns out from what I was reading on Wikipedia that this was actually one of the early films of a cinematographer named Janusz Kaminski, who would eventually go on to win Oscars doing the cinematography on Spielberg movies like Saving Private Ryan. These sort of humble beginnings aren't really a knock on him in any way, though. I mean, I think that he was mainly just filming the movie as he was directed to by Andrew Stevens. Unfortunately, the only thing that Andrew Stevens seems to have a good eye for based on this movie is himself. Oddly enough, as much as some of those early passages where it's all that sweet, soft lighting while he's playing with this girl, as trashy and shameless and needlessly indulgent and stupid as those scenes were, those parts of the film were relatively well shot. The camera felt well composed. The timing and the editing and the rhythm was all on point for what it was worth anyway. And that probably has a lot to do with the fact that Andrew Stevens was not behind the camera for those sequences. The gargoyle in this one is such a waste of time that it's almost hard to even talk about. I'm not even really sure what to say. It's a guy in a bad suit. At least in the original The Terror Within, even though it was still quite clearly a rubber suit, it was made with a level of care and delivered with a level of fun that made it entertaining. This doesn't even really feel like they tried. Like, there's shots where you can see the actor's human toes stretching through the latex. Looks like they just squeezed somebody into a giant condom and then threw some scrambled eggs to one half of their body. Honest to God, it's that bad. I mean, I know this was the 90s and all, but even still, this is one of the cheapest costumes I have ever seen. Scene after scene with this monster just leaves me wondering when I'm gonna bust a gut. Once again, all the heavy-handed paranoia around abortion that comes through in this movie is just so unintentionally hilarious, and I really have to wonder. I'm not someone who gets political in my videos. I'm not really going to start now, but just out of sheer speculation, I can't help but wonder if maybe Andrew Stevens was going through some sort of a pregnancy scare or a pregnancy debate with a spouse or something when he was making this movie, because it just reeks of that. It bleeds through almost every frame. Like, it's just, I do not even have words for it. I don't think I'll really bother saying much more about this one. The Terror Within is fun trash. The Terror Within 2 is just pure trash. It's even more eye-rolling when half of that trash is literally just dedicated to watching Andrew Stevens stroke himself for the entire world to see. Unless you're really serious about completing a series when you start watching one, I wouldn't waste your time on this at all. I mean, the only way it might kind of work is if you started drinking while you were watching The Terror Within, and then by the time you get to The Terror Within 2, you're so blitzed that you can at least laugh your way through the 80 minutes of nonsense. Other than that, steer clear. This thing stinks. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Look for more content in the coming days, and enjoy the rest of your evening.